Ever notice how some compliments leave a bitter aftertaste? They might sound polite, even uplifting, yet something about them stings. That's no simple praise. It's a tactic, a barb wrapped in sugar. Maybe someone says, "Oh, you actually did quite well," as if your success is a surprise. Or they add a sly, "for someone like you," twisting gratitude into a backhanded remark. The goal? Undermine your confidence while keeping you smiling. The moment you realize the game and refuse to play along, their power slips away. It's like washing with soap laced with shards of glass. It seems clean at first, but the more you lather, the deeper the cuts. That's what these hidden insults are designed to do. Wear away at your sense of self while pretending to be supportive. But you have a choice. Either grin through the pain or call it out for what it is. Remember, as Marcus Aurelius said, true strength stands firm without matching cruelty. Once you recognize these barbed words, you strip them of their sting, forcing the speaker to confront their own manipulation. So, how can you spot these compliments masquerading as weapons without second-guessing yourself, without explaining everything away or falling into their trap? Stick around until the very end, because the final example will shift how you interpret praise forever. Let's begin. Number 1. They didn't see it coming. And that's not your fault. You're surprisingly smart. Sounds nice, right? But look closer, because that sentence carries more venom than virtue. It's not just a compliment, it's a confession, a quiet whisper of judgment they thought you wouldn't catch. That word, surprisingly, says everything. It doesn't celebrate your intelligence, it exposes their assumptions. It tells you that in their mind, brilliance wasn't supposed to look like you. Think about it. No one says surprisingly smart to someone they always respected. They say it when they had you boxed in, labeled, silenced. Maybe it was your calm nature, your accent, your background, or the way you carry yourself without needing attention. Whatever it was, they had already decided what you were capable of, and intelligence wasn't on that list. So when you speak with clarity, when you lead with confidence, when you crush the room with calm authority, they don't know how to process it. Their mind breaks the illusion by tagging it with surprise. It's like a storm that was supposed to pass quietly, but instead it thundered, and now they're standing there drenched in their own misjudgment. They smile, pretending to admire the rain, but you can see it. The wet hair of doubt, the soaked coat of old beliefs. Their compliment is just a towel they toss your way, hoping you'll dry the discomfort for them. Here's what might be swirling in your head right now. Should I say something? Should I thank them? Am I being too sensitive? Number. You're not being sensitive, you're being awake. There's a difference. Stoic philosopher Epictetus once said, "It is not things themselves that disturb us, but our opinions about them." Their comment is not the threat. It's your reaction that decides its power. Don't fight, don't flatter, just see it clearly. You see, a wise mind doesn't beg to be seen. It simply walks forward, knowing that the right people won't need a surprise to recognize its light. When someone is shocked by your intelligence, what they reveal is the narrow lens they've been using to look at you. That's not your burden. That's their blind spot. Don't shrink to fit their sight. Outgrow it. Let me tell you about Rachel. She gave a killer presentation at work, clear, confident, captivating. She finished, and a colleague leaned in with a smile and said, "Wow, you're surprisingly smart." That smile. It wasn't admiration. It was the awkward grin of someone realizing their quiet judgment had just been shattered. Rachel didn't argue. She didn't explain. She walked away with something more valuable than praise. Proof, not proof of her intelligence. She already knew she had that. Proof that not everyone who claps for you believes in you. So how do you respond to a compliment that's really a cover for doubt? You don't. Let their words hang in the air like smoke from a candle they tried to blow out, only to find you with a flame that doesn't fade. You have nothing to prove, not to them, not to anyone. Comment below, "I don't shrink to fit expectations." Say it loud. Show it with your silence. Let them sit with their surprise and just wait till you show them what's coming next. Number 2. A compliment with a hook isn't a compliment at all. You look great for your age. It sounds sweet, almost kind, but behind that smile and syrupy tone is something sharper, a subtle jab dressed up like praise. It's not just a compliment, it's a condition, a quiet reminder that you're only allowed to be attractive within limits. And those limits, they're set by someone else's perception of what age is supposed to look like. That's not admiration. That's condescension with makeup on. Let's break it down. If someone truly thought you looked great, they'd say exactly that. No asterisk, no footnote. But the moment they say, "for your age," they reveal the fine print. They're surprised. They didn't expect beauty, strength, or presence from someone who's lived more years than they can compute with shallow eyes. It's like handing you a bouquet and then whispering, "These are actually really nice, for flowers picked this late in the season." How are you supposed to feel? Grateful? Humbled? Or quietly insulted? Maybe right now you're thinking, "But isn't it still a good thing? Aren't they at least noticing I look good?" Here's the lie. This kind of praise isn't about you. It's about their limited view of what aging is supposed to look like. It's their surprise talking, not your value showing. And that surprise says more about the cage in their mind than the light you carry in yours. Marcus Aurelius once wrote, "Receive without pride, let go without attachment." And in moments like this, those words become armor. When someone praises you with a hidden string attached, don't internalize it. Don't make it yours. Let it pass through you like wind through a tree, felt but not clung to. Because you don't need backhanded validation to know your worth. Especially when the hand that's offering it still believes age is a limitation, not a testament. Let me tell you about Laura. She's 42, confident, magnetic. She walks into a room and people feel her before they see her. At a dinner party, a man leaned in and said with a grin, "Wow, you look amazing for someone in their 40s." And just like that, her glow wasn't celebrated. It was measured, boxed, compared. That comment didn't lift her. It didn't acknowledge her presence, her power, or her energy. It reduced her to a timeline, as if beauty has an expiration date. But Laura, she didn't let that comment define her. She didn't argue. She just smiled, because sometimes silence is louder than explanation. So what do you do when praise comes with a quiet insult? First, recognize it. Don't twist yourself trying to feel good about something that was never meant to fully uplift you. Second, don't let age become a measuring stick others use to limit you. Age is not your weakness, it's your edge. It's the chapters you've survived, the wisdom you've earned, and the strength you carry in your presence. And finally, remember, real appreciation doesn't need a disclaimer. If you look great, then you look great. Period. Comment below. My age is my power, not my limit. Say it loud, say it proud, and never shrink to fit someone else's timeline. You are not defined by a number. You are defined by the fire you still carry, and it's only getting brighter. If this spoke to you, like this video, subscribe for more, and share this with someone who needs to hear it. Number 3. When brave is just a pretty word for I wouldn't dare. You're so brave to wear that. Sounds supportive, doesn't it? Like they're clapping for your courage. But listen again, closely. That compliment has a crack in it, and through that crack leaks something sour. Disbelief, judgment, insecurity. Because that sentence doesn't really celebrate your confidence, it challenges it. It's not saying, that looks amazing on you. It's saying, I wouldn't have the nerve to wear that, but somehow, you did? That's not empowerment. That's mockery dressed up in a bow. Let's break it down. When someone calls you brave for wearing something, what are they actually reacting to? Not the fabric, not the color, not the cut. They're reacting to freedom, the kind they don't have, the kind they don't understand. It's like watching someone dance in the rain while they're still standing under a dry porch, afraid to get wet. Your self-expression, your boldness, your unapologetic presence. It's a mirror, and it shows them what they've been too afraid to try. So instead of facing that fear, they disguise their discomfort as admiration. You're so brave. Translation: I'd never wear that, but I guess you don't care what people think. Subtle jab, soft insult, gift-wrapped insecurity. You might wonder, are they trying to be mean, or am I just reading too much into it? No, you're not imagining things. Stoic philosopher Seneca said it best. He who is confident in himself seeks no permission. And people who haven't yet made peace with their own self-image often project that unease onto others. If your outfit, your hairstyle, or your cultural expression challenges their assumptions, they'll cover their discomfort with a smirk and a compliment that cuts instead of uplifts. Naomi knows this all too well. She wore a vibrant traditional outfit to a formal work event, something that honored her roots and made her feel strong. She wasn't showing off, she was showing up, fully, honestly. But halfway through the evening, someone leaned in and said, "You're so brave to wear that here." And just like that, the air changed. It wasn't applause, it was a warning, camouflaged as kindness. Naomi realized that to them, her authenticity was risky, out of place, too much. But she didn't flinch, because once you realize that their reaction is more about their cage than your wings, you stop asking for approval to fly. So how do you deal with that kind of praise? You don't absorb it, you decode it. You recognize it as their issue, not your reflection. And most importantly, you keep being you, loudly, proudly, unapologetically. The people who get it will never call it bravery, they'll just call it beautiful. Comment below. I express, I don't ask permission. Let them keep their fear of standing out. You were never meant to blend in. Keep showing up exactly as you are, because you don't need to be brave to wear what's true to you. You just need to be free, and that, my friend, is what truly terrifies them. Number 4, don't weigh my worth. That's not a compliment, that's a cage. You've lost weight, you look so much better. It rolls off the tongue like praise. On the surface, it sounds like encouragement, recognition, maybe even care. But listen deeper, because inside that sentence lives a lie, a dangerous one. What they're really saying is this: you weren't good enough before. But now that you've shrunk, now that you've taken up less space, now you deserve admiration. That's not a compliment. That's a quiet insult, dipped in sugar and handed to you with a smile. Think about it. What if the weight loss wasn't a result of wellness, but of grief, of stress, of illness? What if you were barely holding it together when they said it? Still, they celebrate your smaller body like it's a trophy, not knowing they're clapping for your collapse. It's like watching a house burn down and complimenting the ashes for being easier to sweep. That's not recognition, that's reduction. You might be asking, but aren't they just trying to be nice? Shouldn't I appreciate the positivity? Number, because real kindness doesn't come with a condition. Stoic philosopher Epictetus said, "The body is a vessel. It is the soul that defines a person." And yet, our culture treats the body like a scoreboard, as if the smaller you get, the higher your worth climbs. But your value doesn't live in your waistline. It lives in your spirit, your grit, your presence, none of which shrinks with the body. Let me tell you about Grace. She had been going through a brutal storm in life, loss, anxiety, and emotional weight far heavier than anyone could see. In the middle of that chaos, she lost actual weight. Not by choice, not for health, it just happened. When she returned to work, people lit up. "You've lost weight. You look amazing." They meant well, but what they didn't know was that she was at her weakest. She wasn't glowing, she was hollow. And those compliments? They didn't lift her up. They crushed her. Because they sent one loud message: this version of you is finally acceptable. Here's the truth. Tying praise to appearance doesn't just miss the point, it spreads poison. It teaches people that their value is in how much they weigh, how small they've become, how invisible they can make themselves. And once you internalize that, it's a trap. A never-ending chase for approval tied to numbers, mirrors, and shrinking pieces of yourself. You forget that growth is not about losing pounds. It's about gaining peace. So what do you do when someone says something like this? First, pause. Recognize that their words are shaped by a society obsessed with surfaces. That doesn't make them evil, but it does make them misled. Second, remind yourself, your worth isn't fluctuating with your body. You were powerful before, you are powerful now. Third, be mindful of the compliments you accept and the ones you give. Say things that see the soul, not just the skin. Praise, resilience, courage, kindness, not calories burned. If someone only sees your beauty when you're smaller, they never truly saw you at all. Let their approval go. It was never yours to carry. Comment below, my worth isn't measured in pounds, it's rooted in who I am. Let this be the moment you drop the weight of others' expectations. You don't owe the world a smaller body to deserve a louder voice. You don't need to look different to be enough. You already are. Number 5, the compliment that builds a pedestal, then leaves you alone on it. You're not like the others. It slips off their tongue with a smile, and at first it feels like gold. A rare gem of validation. You feel seen, chosen, different in a good way. But wait, what's the price of that difference? Because if you look closer, that compliment has two edges. One lifts you up. The other quietly cuts down everyone around you. And before you know it, you're standing on a pedestal built not from your own worth, but from their judgment of others. Here's the catch. When someone says you're not like the others, they're not just praising you. They're also dismissing an entire group. Maybe it's your peers, your gender, your culture, or even your co-workers. You become the exception, not because of who you truly are, but because you don't match the stereotype they've decided to apply to everyone else. It's not about your light. It's about their shadow, their narrow view. And the moment you accept that praise without question, you begin to unconsciously separate yourself. Maybe I am better than them. Maybe I do deserve more. Maybe I don't belong with them after all. But now you're trapped because your validation depends on maintaining that difference. The pedestal feels nice until it starts to feel like a cage. Marcus Aurelius once said, "Never value anything as profitable that forces you to break your word, lose your self-respect, or hate another man." And that's the danger of these kinds of compliments. They profit from turning you against others, quietly, subtly. You're not being seen, you're being recruited, praised not for your truth, but for your usefulness in dividing people. And a wise person? They see right through it. Let me tell you about Emily. She had just started a new job, eager, capable, humble. In her first week, her manager pulled her aside and said, "You're not like the others here, you actually get it." At first, it felt like a badge of honor. She thought she was doing something right. But as weeks passed, she heard similar comments whispered to her teammates, each one told they were the only one who gets it. Suddenly, the team wasn't a team anymore. It was a competition. Walls went up, trust broke down. That compliment wasn't praise, it was a strategy. And Emily realized she was never being celebrated, she was being played. So now you might ask, should I feel guilty for standing out? Should I reject every compliment that makes me feel special? Absolutely not. Stand out, shine, own your uniqueness. But know this, real praise doesn't come at the cost of others. It lifts without lowering. It connects without separating. And it never manipulates your pride to control your place. If someone praises you by tearing down the others, ask yourself, what do they gain by separating me? And more importantly, do I really want to be seen this way? Comment below. I rise by being real, not by being compared. Let that be your reminder. You don't need to be the exception to be exceptional. You don't need a pedestal built on division to know your worth. Because the highest form of confidence isn't standing apart, it's standing true. Even when no one's clapping, even when someone's trying to turn your light into a spotlight they control. Be different, but on your own terms. That's power. Number 6. When being too nice is just their way of saying, I can't manipulate you. You're too nice. It sounds like a soft pat on the back, something gentle, maybe even caring. But listen closely, and you'll hear it for what it really is. A warning wrapped in politeness. That phrase doesn't celebrate your kindness. It questions it. It labels your compassion as a flaw. It quietly suggests that being a good person makes you weak, naive, too trusting, too easy. But here's the truth they'll never say out loud. When someone tells you you're too nice, what they often mean is, I can't use you the way I use others. That's not a compliment. That's a confession. Think about it. Since when did decency become something you have too much of? Nobody ever says, you're too ruthless or you're too selfish as a warning. But when it comes to kindness, suddenly there's a limit, a red flag. And why is that? Because in their world, being kind is seen as being soft. Being respectful is mistaken for being weak. They don't trust kindness because they've only ever used it as a tool, not a truth. But here's where the Stoic mind steps in. Epictetus once said, Virtue must not become a weakness in the eyes of the unwise. Kindness, when rooted in wisdom, is not softness. It's steel wrapped in silk. It's not weakness, it's restraint. It takes strength to stay generous in a world that tests your patience. It takes courage to remain thoughtful when you know others might take advantage. The truly strong don't grow cold, they grow clear, kind but not naive, giving but never empty. Let me tell you about Ethan, a friend of mine. Quiet power, always showed up for others. The kind of man who helped without being asked, who listened more than he spoke. One day, a co-worker told him, "You're too nice. People are going to eat you alive." At first, that line haunted him. He started to question himself. Should he be more cold? Should he speak less gently, laugh a little less? But over time, he realized something powerful. The world didn't need him to change. It needed more people like him to stay exactly the same, with one difference: boundaries. See, kindness without boundaries is exploitation waiting to happen. But kindness with self-respect, that's unshakable. Ethan didn't stop being nice. He just stopped saying yes to everything. He stopped giving explanations for his goodness. He stopped trying to prove that compassion and strength can coexist. Because the people who get it won't question your kindness. They'll be inspired by it. And the people who don't? Let them misunderstand. Their view of strength is just noise. Maybe you're wondering now, should I change how I treat people? Should I protect myself by pulling back? Should I harden up? Don't change your nature, change your circle. Adjust your boundaries, not your heart. Being too nice is never the problem. The real issue is a world that thinks cynicism is clever and kindness is naive. But you weren't built to fit into that lie. You were built to lead with heart and hold your ground. Comment below, "My kindness is strength, not softness." Let it echo, because you're not too nice. You're just surrounded by people too broken to recognize that goodness doesn't mean weakness. It means you've healed in places they've never even looked. Keep being you. The world desperately needs it. Number 7, backhanded praise still stings, even if it's smiling. You're doing great, considering your situation. At first, it might sound kind, encouraging even, but let that phrase sit with you for a second. Feel the weight of that last part, considering your situation. That's where the damage lives. Because now, your success isn't being celebrated on its own. It's being graded against a quiet list of reasons why you shouldn't be doing well at all. Suddenly, you're not being seen as strong. You're being seen as the exception to a struggle they assume you're trapped in. You might wonder, isn't it still a good thing that they recognize my progress? But the truth is, it's not recognition, it's reduction. What they're really saying is, you're doing great for someone who started from less. Less opportunity, less support, less status, less whatever story they've built in their head about you. And that's not a compliment. That's condescension gift-wrapped in fake encouragement. Marcus Aurelius once wrote, "The measure of growth is not where you start, but that you continue." True growth isn't impressive because of your circumstances. It's impressive regardless of them. You're not remarkable only because you came from struggle. You're remarkable because you kept moving, period. But when someone adds that qualifier, considering your situation, they reveal that they never expected you to rise. They built a glass ceiling above you, and now they're shocked that you walked straight through it. Let me tell you about Anthony. He grew up in a tough neighborhood, raised by a single mum, working 2 jobs while going to community college. He didn't make excuses. He made progress. Fast forward, and he's running a successful business, helping others along the way. At a networking event, someone smiled and said, "You're doing great considering where you came from." And just like that, the mask of admiration slipped. It wasn't a compliment, it was a frame. A reminder that in their eyes, Anthony would always be defined by where he started, not how far he had come. So what do you do when someone offers you this kind of praise? First, see it clearly. It's not about your achievement. It's about their expectation. They're projecting their limited thinking onto your limitless journey. Second, don't absorb it. Don't shrink yourself to fit the small version of you they're still holding on to. And third, keep moving. You're not here to prove anyone wrong. You're here to become everything that's right for you. You might think, should I be offended? Or just grateful they noticed at all? The answer is neither. Be aware. Because the moment you start needing others to validate your success, you give them power over your story. But your story, it's sacred. It's yours. You don't owe anyone a highlight reel that makes them feel better about your beginnings. You owe yourself honesty. You owe yourself pride that doesn't need permission. Comment below, "I rise without permission, I grow without comparison." Let them say what they want. Let them frame your progress how they need to. But you keep walking. And the next time someone says, "You're doing great considering," you smile, thank them, and remember, you're not doing great because of where you started. You're doing great because you never stopped moving. If this spoke to you, like this video, subscribe for more, and share this with someone who needs to hear it.